Well, that was a bit of a rough start. I don't know what's going on with Streamlabs, but yeah. Anyway, good morning, Sunday morning. I am super excited for today's guest. It's going to be, I'll get into it in a second, but I am a fast fan of this lady's writing. She is pretty phenomenal. I'm not going to lie. I first got turned on to her work from Blaine Lee Pardoe. He read this book and did a blog on his a blog post on his blog recommending it. And yeah, turns out the guy that's really good at writing mech books is, you probably listen to his recommendations, because this is a great military sci-fi mech story. So let me go ahead and introduce her before I bring her on. Today's guest is Ashley R. Pollard, the author of Bad Dog, which I just read, and as the first book I did my book club stream on. And it is book 1 in the Gate Walkers series. Let me get the cover up for you. This is the cover. I love this cover. I'm probably going to say I love most covers these days, at least the books that I seem to like. That right there is, you can't see it, but the mech, that guy, is called a dog. It's a Marine Corps mech. I'm saying the word mech a lot, but what can you do? Yeah, dude, cool cover. Anyway, let's get that out the way. Again, sorry for the the weird scene switching. Should have been on the starting soon until just now, but I don't know. Streamlabs wanted to mess around with me. She has also written for Miniature War Games, Games Master International, and battle games, and was a freelancer for FASA Battletech game on their 3055 technical readout. And she also wrote and designed OHMU War Machine. So pretty sweet resume. Let me go ahead and get over to Collab Screen, bring her on. Ashley, how's it going?
Hi, good afternoon. A little bit of glitching there, but we're here now and it's nice to see you. Hi, everybody.
Yeah, yeah. You said you were waiting, but like it took forever for the actual to say you were in my queue. So I don't know. Streamlabs has been a little wonky this morning or afternoon for you.
Yeah, but hi, everybody.
Yeah,
Thank you for having me on.
absolutely. Thanks for coming on. You were the first international guest I've had on, so this is cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Woo.
um, for the chat, are you able to give us a quick like premise of Bad Dog and maybe your series as a whole?
Well, I'd call it a trilogy rather than a series, but that's oh gosh. What do you want me to say? Look, I never intended to write Bad Dog. That's kind of the first thing you ought to know. Um, I just had this phrase, which is the first sentence of the novel, pop into my head whilst I was working on a Cthulhu novel that I'm still writing to this day, like 12 years later, because that's how writing sometimes go. You get the idea and it doesn't quite click, so you put it aside and do something else. So what's the series about? Well, I'm a war gamer. You've kind of a role-playing gamer, so and with BattleTech, it had to have mechs in. So when this sentence popped into my head, like it did, I thought, well, how the heck am I going to, what the heck am I going to do with this? But it's just nagging me. So I just sat down. And I kind of think this makes me a discovery writer, or what they sometimes call a pantser,
Man.
in that I didn't know where I was going. I just made it up as I went along. I went, well, if that's happened, then this has got to happen. And if I need this to happen, then I've got to write this scene. So when I wrote the book, I finished the first novel and I realized there was another story to write. And I wrote that, and that's the second book, Strike Dog, which is, well, now you've got the pillars, what are you going to do with them?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to go out and explore strange new worlds, boldly go where no one's gone before, but with mechs. Though not a lot of mech action in Strike Dog or in Ghost Dog, which is the next sequel, because once I finished Strike Dog, there's a whole universe out there connected with these pillars, and then I wrote them and I sent them out to various publishers. I only got one reply. All the other people didn't even send me a nice rejection letter. So I can't even paper my walls with rejection letters from agents and publishers because for us.
Hmm.
So at that point, I was still working as a cognitive behavioral therapist, working there for a couple of years while I toted the book around the various publishing houses, or tried to, with no success. And then that gig ended, and I thought, well, I'll publish it. I'll just, I'll publish it. And that was a learning. Know how, like most things, in fact, are
Yeah.
only easy once you know how. And I released all three books within 1 year, within about 6 months of each other. In fact, the first book came out at the end of 2017. It was meant to be the 1st of January 2018, and the other two books came out that year too. And then it sank without a trace. So going back to the horror novel that I'm writing, and then I had this other idea about cyber tanks. So I wrote some short stories for that. And then I got, would you like to write something for Clash of Steel, which was a collection, and which is, I think, how Blaine um, heard of me,
Hmm.
because he's in the collection. And then Well, obviously COVID happened, and I've
Yeah,
had health issues, and it's
lost her there. I don't know if it's a connection issue on her side. No. Let's see if you get her to click back in here and get her back. There she is.
you disappeared.
Yep. I
I
don't know
don't
if.
know what's happening.
Yeah, I think I must have dropped off. Last I heard, you had some health issues around COVID.
Yeah, I've got a rheumatoid, uh, which is and it's a pain in the proverbial.
Yeah. Yeah. You said they all came out with like in a year. Is that right?
Yeah, so the first one came out. It was meant to come out on the 1st of January, and that was 2018.
Mm-hmm.
But Amazon very quickly processed it, and it actually came out on the 31st of December. Not that that makes any real big issue either way. And then I forget what the next, I think it was 3 months and 3 months. And as I said, sales, it didn't go anywhere. So I spent a lot of money. And this is kind of the harsh, uh, uh, if it doesn't take off for whatever reason,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't get um, people going, oh, look, there's this new book, I want to read it, and liking it, it can sink without trace. And that's basically what happened to the Bad Dog trilogy. So I put it all aside, and have actually now restarted working on the next book in the Gatewalker universe, which will be Two Moons, which has a sort of could have a subtitle. It's either going to be called Two Moons Prometheus or Two Moons Aftermath. I haven't quite decided. I'm a discovery writer, I've discovered. I never thought I was.
Yeah.
I thought I was more of an outliner because, as someone who plays role-playing games, you kind of, when you're GMing a game, you kind of have a plan. I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to get the players here, various bits and pieces. And I kind of do that with my writing in the sense I know this is where I want to start. This is when the character kind of knows that, oh, shit has hit the fan. Then this is where they go, oh, let's go and fix this if we can. And then at that point, you have another twist, what they call a plot turn, and you say, oh, I thought that was the problem, but in actual fact, that's not the problem. This is the problem, and now I've got to go over and fix that. And then you had kind of the middle of the book, where it's everything you lay out the all the factors that are contributing to the problem,
Yeah.
and then you have the aha moment. I'm going to go and fix it. Which in Bad Dog is, when she starts working through it, well, I've got to actually intercept the bomb before the bomb is assembled.
Yeah.
And then that's your climax, that's what brings, why did I died yesterday, and, today I died, and it's all my fault. And that's how you resolve um, the opening line of the book.
Yeah. Great opening line, by the way. That was the whole opening scene was fantastic.
Thank you. A lot of people hated it. And when I say people hate, not readers,
Yeah.
but at the time I was in a writing group and they absolutely hated the book. If I'd listened to the writing group, I would never have even finished the novel.
Yeah. I don't know. I've taken some like writing classes, and I feel. I mean, maybe it's different in a group versus like a class. Because like in the class, like they're. It's like it's part of your grade. I thought that was a super. Yeah, it was an amazing opening. It hooked me right away.
Cool. Well, as I said, it came to me just like that. I mean, there wasn't any great deep plan. I didn't sit down with a piece of paper and go work out what was the best opening line. It was just this. I started writing this book in 2012. I'd just seen an expose is probably too strong a word, but an article about what the CIA or the intelligence agencies in America thought Osama bin Laden um, was working from in Afghanistan, and there was this elaborate underground complex, and then the truth got revealed that it was some shitty little cave, and they were living, out of, rough and eating cold tins of food and
Yeah.
stuff. And that's what kind of inspired the White Mountains. So I thought, well, what if the CIA had been right, and they really were building a underground HQ or
Yeah.
center, um, and then I had to figure out why that never got actually completed in real life, which is the pillars.
Hmm.
I mean, I make it sound like it was all very well planned, but it really wasn't. It was discovered. It was like, this is where I've got to be. What do I need to know? What. It's that ineffable thing, that spark. You have to find that spark.
Yeah.
And the first book, as I said, was very much that. It was just riding that wave. It was like this wave caught me. I got on my board and I surfed it in. And yeah, there you go.
There you
And
go.
it was hated, and it was hated by the writing group I was in. Writing groups, I should say, you should be cautious with. Some can be good. The one I joined was supposedly meant to be very good because it had some professional writers in it.
Hmm.
And if you've ever joined a group which has nobody in it who has actually ever sold a novel, or ever published a novel, then really you're having the blind leading the blind,
Yeah.
because nobody has a clue really what works and what doesn't work. And you can't, to some extent, you can't teach that. And certainly if you have no experience of it. So if you're going to take a writing class, and I understand that you have, then I would check out people like Dean Wesley Smith. He has a blog, and him and Christine Catherine Rush, they run writing courses, and I've been on a few of those, and they're really good.
Hmm.
And they will actually teach you how to, well, they won't teach you how to write, but they'll teach you what is required to
Hmm.
tell a good story.
Yeah.
Because the only way you can teach yourself to write is to write.
Yeah. We'll give you some tools to put in your toolbox.
Yeah, yeah. Um, it's what a story is ultimately is a character in a setting with a problem.
Hmm.
And that's why that first line of Bad Dog works, because it's a character in a setting with a problem. And then it's just a matter of how you expand that out.
Yeah. Um, yeah, especially with that opening, you had like I don't know if this was intentional, but you had this like description of like the angel's wings, with the chaff flares, and then like falling into hell. So I got this like imagery of like falling from heaven down into hell. I don't know. I thought that was a cool flavor to kind of paint the setting and the conflict and the drama.
Yeah, you can blame YouTube shorts of pictures of AC gunships and other Air Force fighters firing out loads of chaff. I mean, that's where I got that image from. I
Yeah,
just thought, wow, yeah, it's a great image, isn't it?
yeah, very visual, vivid. So with these next books you got coming out, is Laura going to be in it? Because you said it was like a trilogy. So is this like a different POV in the same universe, or is it still Laura?
No, the trilogy is all Laura. It's Laura's story. It's finding the pillars, her first mission after she gets officer training, and then her second mission. And I'm not going to spoil anything, but that's kind of the end of that bit of her character arc. If she comes back, there'll be a considerable amount of time, um, because I'm not going to tell you what
Yeah.
yeah, because
No
but there's
spoilers.
a reason. There is a reason why she's going to have a break of a year or so
Hmm.
from the third book to her next mission.
Okay.
Um,
Leave it at that. I don't want to spoil. I'm
yeah,
excited to read the next two books. Uh,
they are very different
I can
because the
imagine.
next two books. I mean, I'm inspired by Stargate. I assume you've watched Stargate SG-1, the TV series.
I've watched the movie, and I've watched like some episodes, but I haven't seen the whole series of the show. But I've definitely seen the movie.
Cool. Well, imagine. Yeah, it that inspired me. I mean, I just thought, well, if you're going to have, what would they do next?
Hmm.
What would be the next mission? What could go wrong? Um, I don't reveal. I the second and the third book don't reveal a lot about the pillars, why they're there, whatever. They just show a universe where you go to a couple of different planets, and stuff isn't bad stuff has happened on both of the planets, whether it's two moons in the second book or the Corellu homeworld in the third book.
Hmm.
Um, and they're more about raising questions. Yeah, I don't want to give spoilers because you've not
Yeah,
read the books.
yeah, not the next two, but they're definitely on the list. All right, so you have like a ton. So I did 6 years in the Navy, I'm not on a ship. I was actually never 6 years in the Navy. I never once stepped foot on a ship. I was on the C-40 Alphas, which is a Boeing 737, so way too big to land on a carrier. Um, but
You
like
sure
you know,
about that?
well, I mean, we never tried, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I had like friends that were ship guys and stuff, and boot camp is kind of meant to design to like emulate and get you ready for life on a ship. So there's aspects of that. But I felt like your descriptions and like the monotony and like the mundane were very accurate. Like where does your knowledge of the military come from?
That's a good question. It's all secondhand. Let's be straightforward there. My primary core profession was a nurse, and there are a lot of similarities between nurse training and sort of military training in the sense of hierarchies.
Hmm.
You're very much a junior, and there's people above you, and but it's very lightweight. My parents are, I mean, I'm old. Look, you can tell I've got white hair. I'm old. And my parents were of the generation that either just caught the end of World War II, um, which was my father, and my mother was caught the first. We had national service in Britain, so she was um, drafted into the army, and she wanted to be a driver, but she was a little short ass. She was 5 foot nothing, and you had to be 5 foot 1 to be a driver.
Uh,
And so both my parents saw service. So my biological father served in Malaya during the Malayan crisis, and that's why I was born abroad.
mhm.
Um, so um, so I have an interest in that respect. And my partner, my partner's uncle is a Royal Marine, quite a famous Royal Marine,
Mhm.
Julian Thompson. You can search that up. I won't. Um, but he wrote a book called No Picnic. So yeah, you can settle that out. So I have certain amount of familial connections, and I have a bunch of friends who have served. And then we used to go out and do airsofting. This was 20 years ago now. In fact, 25 years ago now. Gosh, I'm getting old. And my friends said, "Would you like to come out to this airsofting thing? We do military sims." And so they're all ex-army or they were in the reserves, and they just did this for fun because they liked going out and shooting people with airsoft guns for some fun. And I did that for 10 years, and that gives you a fairly good insight into what it's like to go out on a patrol, because it was always scenarios when we're simulating patrols, and we'd go out and go and do this, and we'd go and do that, and then bad things would happen, and we'd die, and then go. Unlike the real life where you die, and
Yeah.
that's it, you're game over, man. With this, it was like, oh well, okay, we learn from that, and yeah, so that and a lot of YouTube videos, and two films are specifically well, one's not a film, one's a TV series. Generation Kill is just absolutely stonkingly brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want, you know, I mined that for every little nugget I could. And the other one was Black Hawk Down, which is probably my favorite war film
Yeah,
in
great
the
movie.
sense that it's got good dialogue. It I won't say it's realistic, but it is realistic in the sense of it shows what happens when the shit hits the fan
Yeah.
and things go wrong. And that's kind of what, happens in Bad Dog. Shit hits the fan and things go wrong. So
Yeah.
that and a lot of YouTube videos, things like life on board a carrier. And I just watched all this stuff religiously for 2 or 3 years whilst I was writing the novel. I'd go back and correct things and make sure I got it right.
Well,
Because the
yeah.
one thing I really wanted was that anybody like yourself, somebody who'd served, would go and say, "Oh, this feels authentic."
Yeah. Yeah, I thought for sure maybe you like had some insiders on a ship or something, but it just goes to show. I mean, you can find information, and good research without having to know somebody who is a U.S. sailor or a U.S. Marine on that kind of a vessel. So that's cool. You know what's funny about Generation Kill is I just had another author on Friday, and he was like huge inspiration for his story was Generation Kill. So now I got to go watch that because I've never seen that one.
You've never seen Jen? Oh my,
Yeah,
you're in for a treat.
yeah,
I mean, it is absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's probably better than Black Hawk Down,
oh,
though
okay,
it's different. It's a series, not a movie, so it has more room to breathe. But the intel weenies getting their, being put into the Humvees and sent to the front and kind of losing their shit over everything is really well done.
yeah,
It is actually excellent.
nice, yeah. And then with Black Hawk Down, we weren't like I was in the Navy and we were just logistics, but so we weren't packing rifles or nothing, but we would quote the crap out of Black Hawk Down with because we had one buddy who was like a huge gun nut. We all like guns and stuff, but he was like a huge gun nut, like way more than the rest of us, and he would always be like, "This is my safety, sir." That's like our favorite
Yeah,
line.
absolutely
Yeah.
it is. Yeah. Who
Uh,
up? Are you on the 10-yard line, 5-yard line, 2-yard line? Are we ready to go? That. Oh, when he's doing the impersonation of the captain, that was just so funny.
yeah, that's such a good movie. I want to go watch it now. Let's see here. So with Bad Dog, obviously there's a lot of repetition because she's reliving the same day over and over again. So like, how do you make something like that's essentially making something repetitive fun to read?
Well, that as they say is the trick, isn't it? I mean, the first few. I mean, I did 8 drafts to give you some idea. I wouldn't have to do 8 drafts now to write a novel, but remember, this is my first finished novel. I mean,
Mhm.
I've got my other novel that I've finished but haven't finished, but this is my first finished novel, so it was very much a learning curve. And yeah, that problem came and slapped me round real good and hard when I was writing this, and it was. I think I could do it better now.
Mhm.
Not that I want to rewrite. Whatever you do, never go back and rewrite the stories that you finished. That's kind of like Heinlein's rule. Once you've finished, publish it. So it's published. It's done. But if I were now writing something similar, and I would know how to do that much better than I did when I first wrote the first draft of Bad Dog. Because even not even I, it was clearly obvious to me that this was boring. You know, just doing the same. How do I switch it up? And that's why it took, you know, 8 drafts to get right. And
Yeah.
it's not even perfectly right now because as Blaine has said in his review, the middle kind of lags a bit and it's a little bit slow. And now I could probably circumvent that slowness with tricks and stuff. And there are little things I could do, but the novel stands as it stands, and nothing's ever perfect.
Yeah.
And whatever you're doing if you're a writer, if you want to write perfectly, you'll never write anything. So there comes a point where you just have to say, this is good enough,
Yeah.
good enough for government work.
Yeah. I don't think I really noticed maybe because I was reading them like 50 pages at a time, so that's why it broke the book up for me. One, your prose is like, it's very, like it reads real fast. I was just like, 50 pages was like, it went by really quick.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. But I don't know. I didn't get that sense of like a lull in the middle. I don't know if I was just like really focused on like her emotions and like her struggle trying to figure out like what can I do, because like you focus so much on like the little things, like how many little things do I have to do different to affect change, and like how stuck are the timelines, so like she's doing the same day over again, but like every little thing she does has like a may or may not have a big impact, so she's trying to figure it out, and then she's getting like stressed out, and then I didn't get that, like at least I didn't notice any lull in the pacing for me. I think I was so focused on like what was going on with Laura and like how she was going to get out of this loop. But that's how I saw it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I will bow to Blaine's superior experience in this matter, because he's been writing all his life, as far as I can tell. I mean, he's been writing for more years than I'm very much. My writing background starts in non-fiction. It's BattleTech. It's writing the stats and the characters for the mech warriors and writing reviews for games. So my background's much more non-fiction. So he has a lot more fiction writing experience, and that tells in his ability to control the reader's experience when he tells his stories. And I kind of lost my track a second. So all the things that you said, those were my answers to how to solve, not bore the pants off the reader.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my answer.
Yeah.
And you can only do that by being very critical of, is this work? If it bores me as the writer, it's going to bore you as the reader. So it was about me taking the same day and making it not be boring.
Yeah. Yep. I think it's very interesting, like the whole like multiverse or like multi timelines and how time works, and because you always like the trope of like with butterfly effect or whatever, where you go back in time, or like Back to the Future, you change one little thing and they're like, oh, the world's going to be completely different. I like it better. This isn't the first book I've read where like going back in time and doing something different changes very little. Like there was one, I don't know if you've read the Jack Bishop series by Steve Diamond, but spoilers.
I haven't. I've got it on my to read list, so don't spoil it for me. But
fair enough. Then I won't go on any further.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you want. It won't spoil it. I won't come round. And,
basically, just like what you did, where like time is actually a lot more fixed, and like timelines are more fixed than we think they are, and it takes a lot. If you're able to mess with time, it takes a lot to change, how things play out.
And that's actually based on, again, I spent a lot of time researching quantum physics, quantum mechanics. Researching is probably too strong a word, but reading and then listening to YouTube, I mean, proper scientists on YouTube explaining the double slit experiment, for example, because that's really weird. You get two slits and you shine a light down it and it splits the beams, and then they cross over and they make interference patterns. And what's mind-blowing about it is that the math says you do this, XYZ happens. It should happen.
Hmm.
That's what the probabilistic maths say. And then when you actually do the experiment, what you find is the experiment doesn't match the maths,
Yeah.
or the maths doesn't match the experiment, whichever way you want to look at it. You know, and that tells us something about how we don't really understand uh, from a science, physics, quantum mechanics perspective how reality works, because what it seems to be telling us is that you can't, well, it's kind of obvious, really. It's what it's telling us is that you can't know something until you go and check it out.
Hmm.
It's that whole thing about, does the bear in the
Defecate.
woods? Yeah, yeah, that's, well, shit, whatever.
Yeah.
This is an adult's channel. We can
Yeah.
say, yeah,
Yeah. We're,
and if a tree falls, do you hear the sound?
hmm.
Yeah. And that's kind of a philosophical question, and you can tie yourself up in absolute knots. But what we can prove, and it's Bell's theorem that uh, shows this, is that you can only know so much. And until you do the final measurement, you can't know the answer. Things are hidden from us.
Yeah.
Uh, you can't know everything. And then if you extrapolate all of that back in, and there's a great, and I say great with qualifications, Google themselves did uh, a talk on quantum mechanics by an expert in quantum mechanics for the Google people, and he says, look, you can unwind everything at the quantum level. And the quantum level is really, really small. I mean, it's smaller than a small thing. No matter how small you think something is, the quantum level is smaller. It's
Yeah.
like 10 to the 33 or 10 to minus 43. Lots, that's one with 43 zeros. It's very, very small. At that level, you can undo things. You can go back in time. And this is where you get closed time-like loops in quantum physics. And if you want to read stuff about that, read Stephen Baxter's Zeelee books, because they go into whole closed time-like loops. But the thing is, you can change some things, but some things are. It's like steering a ship. You can alter the course a bit, but if there's an iceberg ahead and it's big enough, you're going to hit the iceberg, and that's what I exploited. That it's not easy to change the future.
Yeah. That's a good
Or
analogy
let
with
me
the
put it,
iceberg.
yeah. Or the other question is like the obvious question is like this. They always say, people always, science fiction, you know, people say, if you could go back in time and change one thing, what one little thing would you change that would change the future?
Me or just like in general?
Yeah, yeah, anyone.
Uh.
Anyone in the chat, even you can all join in. What one thing would you change that would change the future?
Hmm. I don't
Yeah.
know. Because like yeah,
No.
especially now that I'm like getting in this mindset of like is it gonna matter if I kill Hitler, is Hitler number 2 just gonna come in, you know?
Yeah. Exactly. Now, let's jump forward. We're at now. Imagine today is in the past, and somebody in the future comes back to the day. What one small thing can they do today that will change the future?
I mean, I don't think anything. I mean, I don't know, but I would say
Yeah.
not nothing.
Not nothing, but it would be incredibly difficult. Can
Yeah,
you
it'd be
see
like
where I'm getting
small.
at?
Yeah,
Yeah. Um, so that's what I'm playing with. So in Bad Dog, actually, it's not really time travel. It sort of feels like time travel
yeah,
because that's the only way I can tell the story is by having the days repeat, and it appears to be time travel. But all those days from a quantum mechanics physics perspective all happen at the same time.
hmm,
It's just the one day. It's just all the different possible outcomes, the measurements being taken to get the outcome you want. Does that make sense? Or is that just kind of blowing your mind?
I mean, it's definitely blowing my mind. But yeah, I think it makes sense. Like, because she kind of describe it in the book, like she can kind of see all the different avenues, all the different like timelines or
Yeah,
whatever you
there's
want to
that.
call them.
Yeah,
But
yeah, there's that scene where she sees everything like crystals,
yeah,
all the different versions. Yes.
yeah, and it makes sense that like it's all happening at the same time. But from a narrative perspective, obviously you can't write all those POVs at the exact same time. So yeah, that makes sense that like they're simultaneous. It's like she's just jumping, through all the different lives, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. And in fact, that's kind of I've listened to your um podcast talking about the book. So I know you have questions to ask about why is it the Confederated States
Mm-hmm.
and why is it this and why is it that? Well, the answer is because it's not this world.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the many possible Earths that could exist. And that's why I don't. People have said to me in the past, well, why didn't you tell us more about World War III and the American Civil War and stuff? Because, well, that's not what the novel's about. And those things don't actually interest me. What interests me is that what if question. You know,
Mm-hmm.
what one small thing could you change that might change the future? And that's kind of what the novel's about.
Yeah.
And how you do that and leadership. Leadership. It's definitely leadership.
Yeah. I like that you left the lore kind of like it's there, right? There's like the earthquakes and all this stuff, and you don't like we don't need to know anymore. I mean, you use it, I guess, to like kind of influence and explain like geopolitics, like with how China and Russia and everyone, India.
Yeah.
But other than that, like that's all we really need it for. So yeah, it's cool. That's cool that it's just like an alternate. Obviously it's an alternate world, or who knows? Maybe it is our future.
Well, I hope not. Well, I say that because, if we did have pillars and even if it wasn't possible to send people through until you find somebody like Laura, um, what the pillars imply is actually quite a big question. It's quite a scary question, or you know, it's like, are we alone in the universe? And either answer, yes, we are, or no, we aren't, are equally scary because if we are alone, and why? You know,
Mhm.
why are we alone? Why are we the only ones here? And if we're not, then we're not. Earth, Earth isn't the oldest in theoretically inhabitable planet that could exist in the universe. You could have a world that existed with our kind of civilization 1 billion years ago. Can you imagine what a civilization 1 billion years in advance of ours would be like?
Yeah.
And what would you do if you met them?
I I guess I don't
Mm.
know. It would really depend on what their attitude is.
Yeah, well, do you ever watch Isaac Arthur's YouTube channel?
I have not.
Well, I recommend it to everybody. He discusses things like the Fermi paradox, and he's a great YouTuber. So if you want to watch somebody, watch him. I watched him a lot.
Yeah, I definitely like watching that kind of stuff though. It's it just kind of talks about the universe, man. All the different uh wacky things out there.
Yeah, and now that there's some interest picking up in the Bad Dog trilogy, um, I'm kind of feeling that it might be worth my while sitting down and finishing that novel, which explores those things in the universe. The fourth novel won't have Lara in it at all. It'll have Anderson,
Mhm.
who you've met from the first novel, but it doesn't have Lara in, well, except in passing. There's a scene where she appears and then reappears, but they're not related to the central question of, well, who's out there?
Mhm.
You know, who is out there 1 billion years or more advanced than us?
Yeah.
Because that's a scary question.
Yeah, are they benevolent or are they out here just absorbing worlds for the resources and moving on like Independence Day?
Um, I'd say it's even scarier than that. They're totally indifferent to us. We might as well be ants.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that Babylon 5 is another one of my inspirational series that shaped me as a writer. There's a scene in, I forget which, I think it's the first season, where Jakar is explaining to one of the humans, look, I take this ant off this plant, lift it up, look at it, and what does the ant say? What is the ant thinking? And then I put the ant back down somewhere else. And yeah,
Yeah.
that idea really intrigues me. It's
Yeah.
how to write it well is is
Yeah.
is kind of the trick, which is why um well, it's one of the reasons why I haven't finished the Two Moons book, is because I've had to do a lot of research about philosophy, science, and then
Yeah.
figure out what do I really think about this, because you know we can all sit there and go, oh my God, that's just mind blowing. But if you want to write a story, you've got to have some sort of, well, ooh, this is what I think.
Yeah.
And that's more difficult than it looks.
Yeah.
At least if you want to do something more than just the standard sort of, oh, it's the Independence Day aliens coming to, do whatever. If you want to do something a bit fresh, and I kind of want to do something a bit fresh, and I
Mhm.
want to have mecha in it. I want to have my heroes going through the pillars, the stargates, in their combat armor suits, and kicking ass and taking names. Because how I get there is the interesting question.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm excited to see because that alien, because you showed the alien right, like in that one chapter. I'm like, okay, I need more of this guy because that dude was crazy.
Yeah, I've just finished a short story, which kind of deals with that guy. It doesn't have any of the main characters in, and this is a little bit of a plot spoiler, but in book two, the Magnetic Anomaly Project Command are sending robot teams through the pillars um, to explore those worlds. And one of those teams goes missing, and the short story is about the missing robot explorer team that they send through the pillars, meeting the cloud and what happens.
Cool. That's a short story. Where can we find that at?
Well, at the moment, I've just finished writing
Oh,
it,
gotcha.
and I've just got it back from my alpha reader. And what I plan to do is I'm going to try and sell it to one of the science fiction magazines, either Analog or Asimov's, um, because it would, if I could get published in one of them, it would be great for brand recognition.
Hmm.
People go, "Oh, look, there's this interesting story. It's a robot and this quadruped dog team going through pillars and meeting this strange alien micro machine clouds, and what happens next." And then hopefully they'd come back and maybe read some of the, and I'd sell some copies of Bad Dog and Strike Dog, because I'll be quite honest, sales have been disappointing,
Yeah.
but that's just the business.
Yeah. I know we got to try to get the word out. I think I actually noticed. So do like put like affiliate links in. I did sell one of your books.
Excellent, excellent, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. So you've kind of already talked about what plans you have for going forward with this IP. Um, are there any possibilities? Are you open to like adaptations? I think this would make a sweet like anime, personally.
Oh, it'd be awesome, wouldn't
Yeah.
it be just? Yes, absolutely. But nobody's come to offer. So,
Okay.
if they did, yes, I'd be up for that.
Yeah. Well, we
Or if Hollywood wants to come calling and say, we want to make a live action Bad Dog movie, yeah, absolutely. But that's not how the real world works.
yeah.
I should also say, have you read my short story in Clash of Steel?
I have not. Clash of Steel, is that a magazine or is that just an anthology or what?
It's an anthology that Blaine and Pardo was in, and Rick Partlow and various other great authors, and I happen to have a short story in there, which is also a Bad Dog
Hmm.
universe short story called Indian Summer Rain. Which will give you some idea of where it's going because that's kind of set in the future. It's a few years down the line,
Hmm.
and chickens are coming home to roost.
Nice. Yeah, I'll check that
And
out. So,
I'll probably put that up. I've got to get a cover sorted, and money's tight, and
hmm.
you've got to have a decent cover, so
Yeah.
that costs money. Um, I've got to get a cover sorted, but as soon as I get a cover sorted, I shall put up because the rights have reverted back to me now for that short story as a short story that will be available on Amazon and wherever electronic books are sold.
Sweet. Yeah, I'm definitely going to go checking that out. This is, I wasn't ever a huge mech fan until I don't know. I got out of the Navy and I started getting into Warhammer, and then I stumbled across Blaine's Land and Sea series. Now I'm
Oh,
just,
Land and Sea is awesome.
yeah,
I mean, best thing Blaine's ever written. I mean, he's written a lot of good books, but the Land and Sea books, he took it up a notch,
yeah,
in my opinion, and every book has been better than the previous one.
hmm,
Because there's a lot of world building in the first Land and Sea book that, kind of laying the ground,
yeah,
which is like, oh, yeah, yeah, and stuff. But each book takes it further, and I love that series. It's great.
yeah. They
Absolutely
definitely
brilliant.
raising the stakes with each new installment.
And it's going to have a game, which is,
Hmm.
that's double bonus points as far as I'm concerned, because I'm very much an old
Yeah,
BattleTech player.
I got my boss
And
right here.
cool.
Yeah,
Can you show it? Is it not easy at hand?
that's right here. I don't know if you can see it.
I
It's
okay.
it's all black, so it's like
Oh, okay.
probably not showing up great.
Oh, cool. Cool for cats. Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, so
Let's see here. Yeah, so I guess we're getting close to the hour mark. Kind of like to finish up asking all the writers. I guess like what is your? It sounds like gaming, but like yeah, tell us about like what your hobby is to kind of like sharpen your saw and get your reset your mind so you can get back into writing refreshed.
well, uh, before I got diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, I was a big martial artist. I'm fairly proficient at Aikido, which is a martial art that some people deride, but in fact, it's kind of basically soft version of jujitsu. It's like the Tai Chi version of jujitsu. So
Hmm.
don't go dissing Aikido. But I can't take the breakfalls anymore because if I go and do a practice session, then the next couple of days I'm just having to take the Motrin and just totally racked with pain. So archery, I like archery because over here in Britain, guns are a bit difficult to. I've shot at Bisley, I like shooting, but
Yeah.
it costs too much. So archery is my good way of going and shooting stuff without having to use guns and all the rigmarole that the stupid UK laws have over guns.
Yeah.
Cycling, but I now live in London. And cycling in London is like cycling in New York, I imagine. It's
Hmm.
not the best place to cycle.
Yeah.
So it's my war gaming, reading books, archery. That's what I love doing.
Yeah, archery. I have a compound bow. I love because one, you don't got to buy bullets, right? You can shoot it, go get your arrow, shoot it again.
Yep,
Like you're saving money on
yep,
bullets. I love
yep.
archery. It's so fun. Do you have any cool like like ranges, 3D ranges you can like walk around and that kind of stuff
Um,
there?
I'm going on a rove, which is sort of like a walk around shoot, but it's a traditional longbow archery course where you have flags set at various distances and you have to try and get your arrow as close to the flag as possible.
Cool.
And they call them roves. And you don't know how far you're shooting. So
Oh,
it
okay.
could be 60 yards, it could be 180 yards.
Are you allowed to bring a
Um,
rangefinder with you, or
nope.
Nope.
No, 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 no. You're not allowed to do that. No, you have to, shoot your first arrow and see where that goes, and then adjust it, or get a good eye. Like rule of thumb. Put your thumb out, see how high the flag is compared to your thumb, and do some mental arithmetic and kind of go, well, it's got to be about 80 to 120 yards, and now if I'm shooting that, what would I be shooting, and go for it. And of course, you can only shoot with traditional bows,
Hmm. So no
either English
compound.
longbow, no compound, no, or recurves,
Hmm.
because where would be the fun in that?
Yeah. I mean, there's something cool about doing like the like the primitive weapons. Not that they're not like I'm not using primitive as like a pejorative term here, but like some because there's
Yeah,
beautiful
basic
longbows.
weapons.
Yeah.
Yeah, my longbow I made, well, a boy made the basic staff, and then I went on a course with him for 2 days and finished off my staff to make my own longbow.
Nice. That's awesome. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We have a lot of overlap in our hobbies because I don't like I mountain bike, so I have like a hardtail rock hopper. Are you like around town kind of like a
I,
road biker?
I'm both. I've got a mountain bike. I've got a Proflex 656, fully sprung.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
it's a classic now. I mean, because I bought it back in the 90s, and Proflex went out of business probably 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's a classic bike, and I don't get much. I haven't, because I now moved to London.
Hmm.
I don't get much chance. But when I used to live outside London, I used to go cycling every weekend. I used to live on the east side of London, which was close to Epping Forest,
Yeah.
and that's got some good trails. You know, done some has even some nice drop offs. I mean, not particularly big, but the one part of the course there was a 4 foot drop off, which was you come up to it and you have to lift up your front and then go down on the back wheel.
Hmm.
Good stuff. Good
Yeah.
days.
Yeah, I got into it mountain biking when I was stationed in San Diego, and there's so many like
Oh,
year-round great trails in San Diego. I live in Portland, Oregon now, so like there's great trails here, but the weather it depends. Like it can be real soppy, wet, muddy.
yeah, you'd need some good waterproofs, wouldn't you, for Portland?
Yeah,
Yeah, but I imagine it'd be fun.
yeah. There's great.
And
There's tons of
it's
trails here too.
Yeah, yeah. I miss the trails. I mean, there's another problem getting old. You get old, and you know, yeah, don't get old. That's my
Yeah,
advice.
I'll try not to. But yeah, I think that's all. That's all I got for today. I thank you so much for coming on the chat. I loved your
Oh,
book. Excited to keep reading, and keep my eye out for more stuff coming from you.
keep up the good work, and you're getting better every time
Thank you. Yeah, I'm
in terms
trying.
of your presentations. It's hard. People think this stuff's easy, but it's not. It's actually harder than it looks to
It
get it
is.
to be slick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
All
so
right.
the next
Thank you
book,
very much.
yeah, absolutely. Watcher of the Damned. I don't know if you're familiar with R.H. Snow, but she's the next book I'm doing in my book club, and she's going to be on, and so a couple more people. So now I have people to bounce ideas off of for my book club. So that'll be nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. And if you need, if you do start writing and you want some feedback or pointers, feel free to reach out.
Oh, will
You've
do.
got
I
my email.
actually I might send you a short story here in a little bit then, if that's the case.
Okay. I look
Awesome.
forward to it.
Appreciate it. Thank
Take
you.
care now.
You too. Bye.